Hello, good morning. I'm Charlie Gibson and you're watching The Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. And today, my guest is Charles Barkley, the Chief Operating Officer of Bluebird Merchant Ventures. Charles, very good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Bluebird, South Korea, the Gubong mine. Give us an update. Where are we?
Well, we're currently investigating both of the mines and busy writing our farm-in report for our potential joint venture partner, Southern Gold of Australia. We have access to the first part of the mine. We are doing metallurgical test work. We've been busy with some small water treatment plant and looking at the community and talking to the community, having them on side. And we have cemented, I think, relations with the county and the province, who are very keen to see us succeed in our venture of reopening the old mine, which was the second largest gold mine in South Korea at one stage.
So this is Gubong. You mentioned there were two mines, but you're just finalising a joint venture with your second mine?
We're completing the joint venture agreement. Basically, we've done everything except provide a plan to move forward into production, and that's what we'll be providing over the next 2 to 3 months.
So, and the counterparty here is Southern Gold, is that
yes,
right? Which is an
correct.
Australian. What can you tell us about them?
Well, they're a small junior exploration company who've got properties in Australia. They had a model of finding the resources and putting them into good order, and then they looked for miners to mine the deposits, and they have a financial agreement with those miners. It's a similar model to what we have developed from our side of the pond. We wanted to find old mines that we could reopen. They have 14 properties in South Korea now, and
are they those properties that are non-core to them now, so to speak?
Non-core. They're core to them, but they're not core to us. Only we've taken two to start off with.
And it's a 50-50 agreement, is that right?
It's a 50-50 joint venture from the time we agree to move forward into a production scenario.
And so what's the next phase? What are you doing?
Well, right now we're doing metallurgical test work at Gubong. We are, as I said, doing a bit of dewatering to access more of the mine, and we hope to complete that in the next 2 weeks. And then we will be...
How much is underwater?
Look, the mine itself goes from about 130 meters above a valley floor, down to the valley floor, and then 500 meters below. Now, obviously, below the valley floor is flooded. It's been flooded all the time for the last 50-odd years. But
they're all 500 meters flooded beneath the valley floor?
Beneath, yeah. So we are actually entering the top half into the hill, and there's only about 3 meters of water that we need to get rid of there.
And so you're going into this mine now, and how have you found it? Because when was this mine closed then?
Well, it's an interesting story. 1967, they had a major accident in their vertical shaft, which probably led to their demise because it was replacing a number of incline shafts so that they were hoisting from 500 meters below surface. But they had this accident, and one of the pump attendants down at about 250 meters below surface, he managed to call up and say, "Hey, I'm alive."
And what happened? Did everything just fall in, or?
We're not sure about how badly damaged the shaft was, but the mine stopped producing there and then on a presidential decree which said get the guy out of the mine. So for 15 days he was down there, and they finally got him out with the assistance of the US Air Force and whatever. And it was a huge story in Korea. So that happened, and then they had a strike because the workers hadn't been paid, and they went through a torrid time and eventually closed in 1971. So that's how they closed. You know, one of the major reasons for mines closing is social events, catastrophic accidents, and low gold price and spiraling costs. And basically that's what we believe happened to them.
So you've gone into this mine now, you're going into the bit that's above the valley floor.
Yeah.
And it stood up pretty well, because old mines can close up, can't they?
Well, they can, but we've seen, thus far we've seen very little what you would call collapsed ground at all. And in fact, in the other project, which is similar in nature, we've opened up 3 kilometers already without a single fall. So yeah, pretty good.
And so the next phase, you need to go in, you need to assess it. So you're going to be looking at the rock competence or the
Well,
geology.
we've already announced a few sample results that we got. We look for the spillage, the leftovers, the remnants that were left behind. And the more immediate the closure of the mine was, the more that's left lying around. And what was unpayable in those days that they left as remnant pillars and blocks of ground, we believe many of them will be payable today.
So, and then you said you'd come up with a couple of assay results. What were they, roughly?
Oh, they varied from a couple of zeros, but to 4s, to 10s, and some of the spillage was running at, I think, 14 grams per ton. So we have to
half
put
an ounce per ton.
Yeah, we have to put all that together. It's obviously not all going to run at half an ounce, and it's not all going to run at 0. So that's what we have to get our head around.
And are your geologists excited? I mean, I presume they would be at those sort of grades.
Well, we have a consulting geologist. We don't have any geologists on our staff. We are a bunch of old miners and metallurgical engineers. We don't really have geologists because the geologist work has basically been done. Right. By the explorer, by the miners in the old days. So that's how we're able to come with a cost-cutting model to get a mine in operation, because we don't need to look for the gold. The gold's already found.
So do I detect here that you're an engineer?
I am definitely an engineer, yes, but I do love geologists, and a few of them.
And I believe you too. People think 500 meters underground. They think that's quite 1,500 feet. That seems deep. But you were in South Africa, and this isn't actually deep at all.
Well, I was down at 3,700 meters. So during my time.
Western deep levels? Or?
No, that was a mine called East Rand Proprietary Mines back in the 80s.
Which I think was the second deepest South African mine, wasn't it?
Well, at one stage it was the deepest, and then got overtaken by Western Deeps, I think, or West Driefontein, one of the two.
Yeah. So we've talked about Gubong there. What about Kochang?
Well, Kochang is a completely different animal in that the ore bodies are dipping far steeper. There's 3 veins that were mined. It was a small, high-grade mine. The paperwork that we have found says it produced 5 million ounces of silver at 1,000 gram per ton, which in itself is, I'm not sure, maybe 20 gram per ton gold equivalent. Yeah. And then it had to the east, it had the gold side of the mine, and that was producing at about 19 grams per ton. So between the two, there's about 600 meters. And last year, Southern Gold got a geologist in who traced the veins going from the gold to the silver mine. So he's filled in the gap of about 600 meters, none of which has ever been mined. So that's a hot target for us because we've managed to open the mine and we're right there. All we have to do is follow our noses, basically.
And what is you said you love geologists, so what is the geology?
Well, don't quote me. They're orogenic deposits.
Right.
Okay, and don't ask me anymore. It's rock that contains gold.
Gold. Spoken like a true engineer. So, in I would say in your wildest dreams, but in your greatest hopes, how would these 2 deposits, these 2 assets of yours, how would they develop over the next, I don't know, 2 to 3 years?
We will go in a small way to start off with, taking out everything that was left behind in the mines, sweeping it, cleaning it, sorting it, and producing. What we're looking at about 150 ton a day to start with on each of the mines. That will grow.
What about the dewatering? Because that can be quite an expensive game, can't it?
Well, that's the whole point. That's why we took Kochang on, because Kochang is dewatered, so there's no problem there. Gubong in the future years. Now we're talking years of production, year 2, 3, 4. We will steadily drop the water level, and we'll mine the areas that we uncover there to get to the bottom. Because really, when it will become the real company maker, and we're looking at, maybe 100,000 ounces per annum. in the future, but it's down at the bottom of the mine. But we will build up our production as we go. So by year 4, we expect to be producing 400 to 500 tons a day, and then we will go for the big one.
Right. So you're in metallurgical testing at the moment. What are the next, in terms of news flow, what are the next catalysts out there for investors to look at?
It's further opening up. It's more test work, because you can never do enough metallurgical test work. We need to look at what results we're getting and how can we improve them. And there's lots of new technologies these days, cyanide replacement reagents and all that sort of thing. And we'll be looking at all that and getting the mine open more and more. Hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll be sending pictures. Unfortunately, we can't publish them, but they'll be on our website of the major level of the mine, where all the ore was transported for 40, 50 years. Looking at we've already opened a shaft up for 60 meters and equipped that with a ladderway. And so we'll be taking that further as well.
Excellent. All right, Charles, we wish you the very best of luck. Come back and let us know how it goes. And quickly, when do you think there'll be the final investment decision?
For Gubong, later this year, probably September, maybe a little earlier. And for Kochang, a couple of months, 3 or 4 months later.
And that's presumably when you need to raise money? Or
yeah, well, we'll be looking at our finances. So far, we've done it all ourselves, basically, with a few friends. We've spent £497,000 in the year, and we believe we've got a great return for that expenditure so far.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we got time for. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. This is me, Charlie Gibson, signing off for the Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. As I say, Bluebird Merchant Ventures shares up from tuppence to threepence over the course of the last, well, just 5 months, and as the Americans say, you do the math. We'll be back very shortly with more mining opportunities that we hope will offer you the same sort of potential returns, either past or present, or indeed future. And until then, you have a very capital day.